you now are at a point where you need to start including all the sheets that are going to be in your project set for submittal for a building permit. And as you can see in the list before you, I have the architectural sheets. I have some civil, some electrical, some general sheets, structural title sheet, and one that's called NA. That's for the open. We can look at that later. But the important thing here is that we want to start setting this up so we can actually have one sheet schedule which indexes all the sheets in order that we place it on our sheet list. And so if you look at the image on the screen, you'll see kind of what I'm talking about, where we have an index of sheets, and you can see how they're organized and how the headers are set up for each one of those indexes. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to rename this sheet list, and I'm going to call it sheet list all. And I did it all in lowercase because I want to indicate to the project team that this is a schedule that is not to be placed on a sheet. It's not for publication. And I need to have a comprehensive list, so when I add sheets to my set by adding a row, the other thing I need to do is go to the Manage tab, and I need to add some project parameters. And I'm going to click on the Add button and click on Shared Parameters. I have a Shared Parameters list. I'm going to add this sheet discipline name. And when I do that, I need to go into the category section and make sure I identify that with sheets. I'm going to add one more, and this is going to be an integer, and it's a discipline by number. And again, it needs to be associated with sheets. And I'm going to select OK. So now that I have that, I can now go to my fields list over here and add those into my fields. So there are those two parameters I created. I'm going to add those to this, to my sheet all schedule. And so there you go. That's all set up for me. And it's kind of straightforward. If I select in here, I type Arch for architectural, and on the screen you'll see that there is actually a list that associates the architectural with a specific numerical value. And as you can see, for architectural, that value is 4 in this case. And let's look at civil. So civil, the abbreviation is CIVIL. Pretty straightforward, right? And that numerical identification is actually 2 in my list. Electrical. So now I have the basic list created. Now I'm going to go through and adjust all these values at the same time. As you see, if I put my cursor in that space, architectural is now available to me as well as the numerical value. Okay, now that I have that adjusted, the next thing I need to do is start setting up filters. And I'm going to go to the filter tool. In the filter tool, the first filter I'm going to use, or the only filter I'm going to use in this case, is going to be by the numerical value. I need to use that. That's a really important feature. So that's going to be equal to, or I mean, it should be greater than or equal to, and that's going to be 1. Let's say 0 in this case. And then the next one for the numerical value is going to be less than my highest value, which is 6. The next thing I need to do is go to sorting and grouping. And then sorting and grouping is where we start sorting by the numbers that we actually use. So I'm going to use that numerical value, and it's going to be ascending, and then I'm going to go by the discipline or the sheet name, and that's going to be a header. And the reason why I want it to be a header is so that when I'm looking at this, I can see that whole thing at once. So I'm going to go ahead and select OK, and you can see it's now organized this thing based on, there's the header, there's the number, and there's the organization. So I'm going to right click on this and select, whoops, there we go. I want to duplicate that, and this next one I'm going to rename it. I'm just going to call this, again, I want that to be in capital letters because I want this view to show up on the sheet list. Now, one of the things I would probably do is not have this sort of organization for the sheets all. It doesn't hurt it, but I typically just don't normally do that, but it's okay to leave it that way. So the sheets all is really the one I'm really interested in, and the only thing I want to do is I want to change this name, and it's updated for me, and I want to make sure my appearance settings are all the way I want them. I typically will do that in this very first one so I don't have to do it over again, but as you can see, I have this pretty much set up the way I want it. The only thing I think I'm going to eliminate is going to be that blank row, and that's right up here. I'm going to select OK, and when I do, you can see it now collapses. Now I probably don't need this row up here, so I'm going to go and change that so we don't show the headers. And then the other thing I want to do is go into the formatting section, because since this is going to show up on my sheets, you know, it's going to be placed on a sheet, I want to make sure that I turn off both of these. So I'm going to make those hidden fields. I really don't need to see those fields. I'm just going to select OK. So this is now what I have. And in fact, I can go in here and I can call this cover sheet, and this could be general notes. So you can just keep going through and updating all of that all at the same time. And what happens is, if I look at the sheets now and I go, say, down into this section, you can see there's general notes, there's a cover sheet, I didn't do any of these others, but you get the idea. So now what I might want to do is go to my cover sheet, and when I go to the cover sheet and I drag and drop this view on there, it updates, or it drags and it sets it up so I can see all those views based on, or those sheets based on their utilization. One of the other things I might want to do, maybe I don't need to see the border or the outline. If I really don't want to see that outline, again, I would go back to this, go to appearance. I'm going to turn off the outline. I'm also going to turn off the grid lines. I'm just going to select OK. And so now it would look like that, which would be pretty typical for a document that you would see published. So that's providing an alternative to creating a sheet list in Revit 2020.